gonna say first topics is Kevin Samuels. Shit.
Or really provocateurs. You know what I mean? Like, because Kevin Samuels is under the same vein as people like Charleston White to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Now you gonna make me try to figure out how to spell that shit.
What?
Provocateurs. Hold on, I got you. I got you. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, let's just social media provocateurs. I think that that's really the conversation. But we can definitely start with K Samuels because he's still living rent free in motherfuckers' heads. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Um, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tag you in this one real quick, and then I'm gonna throw the link in the comments for anybody that wanna, you know what I'm saying, follow us, because I'm gonna throw a couple links in there.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna throw the first one here too, and then I'm gonna throw another link in the comments for the Facebook page. I'm gonna run on the Facebook page as well. Uh,
Okay.
so let me do that real quick. So that should have hit your Facebook.
Okay.
Let's see here. Throw that there. All right.
Yep.
So let's start this topic, because I think, and we can talk about different social media provocateurs, but I think Kevin Samuels is where we start.
Okay.
I
Let's
was
do it.
introduced to Kevin Samuels about 3 months before he died, right?
Okay.
When I say introduced to him, I had people sending me information, but I had no concern. It wasn't shit I was trying to dig into. Didn't really apply to me, so I had other stuff going in my life. But as I started getting ready to look at the podcast shit, I started digging into it. From my perspective, I looked at it and I'm like, this is shit everybody should already know as a man, right? And
Mhm.
and so I took it, and I still take it that way. And maybe you could change my mind, as he was necessary for what is traditionally called simps, right? The men who aren't assertive, the men who lack confidence, men who struggle with women. And I don't mean necessarily struggle in the aspect of you can't uh, you don't get access to them, but you struggle with keeping, right? It's easy to get access, but it's difficult to keep. When I looked
Mhm.
at a lot of what he talked about from the male perspective, right? Because people are like, well, man, you got it on to him when he was bashing women, this, that, and the other. So I looked him up, and I'm like, cool, he's got some valid points. Get your shit together, right? Don't be out here trying to date women when you can't pay your own way, right? Don't
Right.
tell a woman she needs to be, 5'4", 110 pounds, and have this and this, and you 5'7", 350 pounds, and you don't got no job, right? This is, to me, that's common sense shit. But people ran with it, and like I explained it, I feel like Kevin Samuels was talking to Gucci store customers, but the Walmart shoppers picked him up and ran with it, right? And
Yeah.
and so I go round and round with people, because these dudes are like, Kevin Samuels, Kevin. I'm like, y'all skip all the shit he said about men and only focus on the women. And I just look at it like, that was shit your daddy should have taught you. That was shit your older brothers, your uncles. And when I'm looking at these dudes who are living this shit, I'm talking people with tattoos of this. I ain't putting no other man name on me, bro. But it's cats, they out here, right?
Seriously?
So I jumped in these Kevin Samuels groups because that's what I was told dating was about, right?
So
And
let,
this,
let, let me let me make sure I heard you right. You saying that
yes,
these
you
people
heard, you
people
heard
have
me,
tattoos of him?
man, on their body, bro. I'm not saying tattoos. I don't mean like his name. They got his face on them and shit. It's crazy, bro.
Okay.
I'm gonna send
Okay.
you some links to that, right?
All
But
right. All right.
I look at this and I'm like, to them, he was Jesus. He's a Messiah. And they took all that shit he said. None of it still worked, right? And that's what I mean
Right.
by
Right.
the shit. The simps needed him, but he can't fix. A man on the internet can't fix you, bro. Like,
Right.
it's not gonna happen.
Right.
But I know we have different opinions on Kevin Samuel. So I wanted to get to that, and then we'll touch on some other social media provocateurs as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, off top, I think K Samuels was a brilliant mind. Um, and usually brilliant minds articulate themselves in a very boisterous way, and it's all about how people respond to them. Because his mo was not to bash women or bash men. His mo was to really disrupt culture and be informative, and really challenge us. And I think that's what we need. The reality is this: a lot of people are on their own programs, and so they idolize social media influencers just like they do athletes and entertainers. You know what I mean? And I don't think that that's the responsibility of the people who's being idolized. I think it's a responsibility of those who, it's our responsibility,
Right,
you
right.
know. But and I think he was very necessary.
In what way? Like, what did? So when I look at it, I'm like, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong shit. The information was good. I don't have no issue with the man himself. I don't have no issue with the information. I have my issue is the people who picked it up and ran with it. Right? That's where my issue lies. Again, Kevin ain't responsible for what people. If I give you information, you do some horrible shit with it, that's on you. Right?
Right.
But I don't. And maybe the people who benefited from him don't say shit about it. Right? Don't talk about it much. But everything that I see about him are the men who took what he was saying, skipped all the shit he said about being better men. Right? That's just 100%. They skipped all that shit and
Hmm.
and started to really take the shit he said about women. He didn't bash women. He allowed women to say dumb shit and he corrected them. Right? I'll give him his
Right.
points where his points is due. But
Right.
again, but I guess what I'm missing is the value, right? Because I don't think it made anything better. So help me understand the value he brought. Again, he's not responsible to make the world better. Nobody is, right? But when we say he had a purpose and he had value, what is that?
The value is when you are able to articulate a message well enough for an entire culture, an entire, I would say maybe even a nation, to have to deal with that energy. They could not ignore it because there was undeniable logic in it, and it was also during the time where they were weaponizing femininity, with all these different the Me Too movements and things like that. Our culture got this thing bad where we hoist up the strong black independent woman, and
Okay.
that is counterproductive to what we need most in the culture, and that's strong family dynamics. And so what Kevin Samuels was doing was he was really what's the word I want to use? He was amplifying the logic that a lot of people are ignoring. So when he had conversations with women, like you said, he would allow them to highlight their expectations, and then he would just hold a mirror up in front of them,
Okay.
right, and challenge them to that. Like, do you qualify for what you are actually seeking? And the reality was, a lot of them didn't, because a lot of them hadn't even assessed themselves prior to even entering the chat. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay. I can roll with that.
He did the same thing with men, but once again, because they had weaponized femininity during this time on social media, then the algorithm fed that to us. I had already, but let's just say he was only speaking to women. Let's say that was a pocket he chose to stay in. It does not negate the things that need to be said. And a lot of us who already think like that just don't have the time. We live in our lives, we doing what we do. And so, a person like myself, I was a fan of it because I'm saying I believe in balancing narratives. And anytime you challenge people to be better, especially your culture, I think it's very necessary. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's no different than how many people have an issue with people like Charleston White. You know what I'm saying? Because you get caught up on, well, this is what we do. We get too emotional about it.
No doubt.
We get caught up in trying to judge the messenger, and we do that to just deflect from our responsibility to examine the message.
Okay.
So my thing is, I would challenge anybody to say, like, okay, like you were saying, hey, the things he was saying, I had no quarrels with, right? If that's the case, then why doesn't there is no issue? The only issue is the people who were disrupted by his message, and that ain't his fault. That's
No, no,
your
no.
fault.
And that's what I said. I never had an issue with the man, right? I didn't have an issue with his message. I have an issue with the people who received it and the way they took it. Because I don't think the majority of people who took it, and maybe that's a culture thing, did the right shit with it. It was holding the mirror up is necessary.
Yeah,
But they held up a one-sided mirror, right? Everybody showing everybody what's wrong with the other side and not reflecting on themselves, right? And on the flip side of the whole women and their expectations, I'm gonna be honest. I think every woman that went on there talked about her expectations was full of shit. Either that or they have no concept of money. And what I mean by this, I need a man who makes $200,000 a year. First off, let's be real. Your baby daddy don't, and every man you laid with don't. So you don't need that, right? I felt like when women got on his show or any show, that Kendra G, doesn't matter who it is, and they say, "What's your ideal man?" What they hear is, "What's the best possible man you could ever have?" Which we know ain't gonna exist. But they throw these crazy ass numbers out. No, I don't. And this is what I say when a dude was like, one of my guys, like, man, well, Kev straightened women up and he held them accountable for these delusional concepts. And I'm like, in reality, bro, none of these chicks really believe the shit they said. I don't believe that. I don't believe there's a chick
But
out here.
that's what he was exposing, though.
Right, but I think, see that, and maybe I'm cut from a different cloth and I grew up different. I'm like, we supposed to know that shit already.
You know better.
We supposed to know that shit already,
Yeah,
right? Like, this is
but
not.
you know better. You know, it's not that we don't know it. It's who's okay with the truth and who isn't.
It's. I look at it in reality, and again, I probably give too much credit, and that's part of my problem. Is I tell myself everybody's capable of understanding this pretty basic logic shit. We'll use Lizzo for an example, right? Lizzo out here doing this shit, and she's like, "Oh, it's body positivity, this, and this." Right? I've been overweight, I've been fit, I've been in between, I've been it all. Right? Nobody wants to look like that. Right? And that's not a knock on nobody. I'm just being real because as soon as they drop that weight, the pictures come flying. Right? It's. I think we get caught up in the fake beliefs, right? And like
we lie to each other.
we lie to each other, right? And it's a man and woman thing, right? Like I'm not. If my boys, if we going out and you got a clown ass outfit on, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, bro, you got a clown ass outfit on." Now we can still go out, but I've done my part. Right? I know women on the flip side are a little different, right? If a chick come out with a clown ass outfit, they're gonna let her roll with it because now they got to one up, right? Because it's really a competition.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we lie to we lie to each other, and that social media has evolved the space for us to lie to each other even on a deeper level, because you can literally go and find the lies that you want to hear. You
100%.
can you can go and say, if you can decide that I want to hear this lie, and then you can go post it in a way that actually literally request that lie, and you're going to get
Support.
tons of people lying to you, right? And so it just reinforces delusion. And I think that's the one so Kevin Samuels was the antidote to that. And that's why he was seemingly problematic. But that's only the people who had a problem. But if you okay with being challenged and being criticized, then why is it a problem? Because either he's talking to you or he's not.
Right? No, I'm with you. Like I said, the message or the messenger was never the problem. It was the people who received it and what they did with it. So do you believe that the delusion is real, or do you just, because I don't. I don't, again, I look at somebody and I look at the reality of the situation, right? If a chick say, I got to have a man that's 6'4", makes this amount of money, do this, and this, and I look at him like, every man you've been with was shorter than that, made less than that, didn't look like that. So, I mean, who really believes that delusional shit, bro?
Okay.
I don't.
I'm gonna tell you where it was real at. This is where when you were talking about how, when you brought up a lot of the simp culture. Well, pre Kevin Samuels, that's where the delusion is reinforced at. A lot of men who really never didn't have the access to women that other men had, right? And so they would reinforce this delusion. And I mean, I'm not going to even make it seem like I'm not guilty of it on no level, right? I was, how I grew up, you were taught as a man that, number one, you have a duty damn near to accept women with children. You have a duty to do it, right? You have a duty to essentially adopt those children as long as you're dealing with her.
Right? Package deal.
Yeah, a package deal. And even if you didn't have children, right? So even like and now there's women that feel like if a man says that, hey, I don't want a woman with children, there are women that will take offense to that. They are almost vilified in the sense that, or they'll question your manhood. You know what
Right,
I'm
I
saying?
see that. Right, I
That's
see
all
that.
I'm saying. But guess what? It's a lot of men who reinforce that behavior because the women be so delusional. They don't even realize that, hey, they just leveraging your delusion. And he's taking advantage of the fact that, because if you had no children, he wouldn't even qualify for you. But because you have children, then he can run up under a moniker as a real man that's stepping up to the plate. But he don't got them. He don't got the options that that you think that the men y'all say y'all want, y'all desire, really has. And that's where so I think it's real. I think it's real. It's a delusion, but I'm saying it's a real thing.
And I think on that part, I somewhat understand because I think that's an internal. Like we justify shit. If it doesn't work for me, it's got to be somebody else. I think we struggle with pointing, and I'm guilty of it myself in other ways. I've been guilty of saying, man, it's got to be something else because I can't be the problem, right? I can't be the reason. Now, when it comes to dating and relationships, I tell this to my guys: listen, if you have a 100% failure rate, you shoot in the wrong direction. You got to readjust, right? Out
Mhm.
with a couple of my guys last night for a hot minute. My guy hit me up to step out. I'm watching them. I hope he ain't watching, but they shooting shots, right? At these two chicks. It's me, him, and one other homie. They pull up on these two chicks. I get my space, right? Y'all do y'all thing. I'm having a drink. I'm chilling. And I'm watching these cats, and I'm watching it go bad. And I'm like, y'all 3 minutes in, and I know it's a failed, it's a failed deal. I didn't catch the chick's name, but one of the chicks was a dating coach, right? She was in town because it was up in Elkhart. She's doing some seminar somewhere in the area, and I'm like, bro, you trying to shoot at a dating coach? It's not gonna happen. First off, I'm a little concerned because she's a dating coach that travels and she's single, which tells me whatever she's looking for might not exist, right?
What the fuck is a dating coach anyway? Let's just I
So
mean,
what she said was she travels and she puts on seminars for single men and single women. Sometimes she does speed dating events, shit like that. Well, she's cleaning up off of people's trauma. I'm gonna keep it real.
exactly. That's
That's
what I'm
all
saying.
she's doing, right? But I'm like, that's not going well. But I'm watching my guys shoot these shots, and I'm like, one of my homies offered to buy the chick a drink. She like, nah, I'm cool, and then bought her own. I'm like, to me, that's a ultimate. Hey, She didn't be like, hey, let me buy you one in return or something like that, right? That's the end of the conversation. But so I look at it, I'm like, they run into this. A lot of these cats run into the same fucking situations because the problem is internal. I will give Kevin credit. He talked about helping men build self confidence, or not really helping them, but telling them what they need to do. You got to be confident. You got to be, assertive. You got to be financially comfortable with yourself. And I think a lot of men lack that confidence, and that lack of confidence shows from a mile away, right? And so I have to, like I said, I give him credit on his idea and his message. But I just think cats didn't pick it up on men or women. But
Right.
you brought up,
So what was okay? Who do you think? What was problem to you? What was problematic about Kevin Samuels to you?
it wasn't him. It was the people. Let me specify, right? The
Okay.
cats who took his message only took his message and went and threw it at all women. Started throwing it everywhere, right? You can look at it. It's reverberated all over the internet today. Oh, women ain't got no value if they ain't got kids, this, that, and the other. I'm like, I understand to a certain extent, but if you got 4 kids and she got 4 kids, y'all kind of on par, right? Like it's
I don't know. I thought like that before, but I just there are social nuances that exist.
there are, right? There's
Like for okay, although there are a lot of men who raise their children by themselves, it is socially accepted that women generally keep the children and raise children as single mothers, right?
Yep.
Now, let's examine that for a minute. A woman can raise multiple children with the support of the government, with the support of her relatives, her friends, and even the multiple men that she may or may not court. And even if it's not multiple, maybe it's just
Right.
one or two, right? And still be celebrated as a single mother who raised these children by herself when she did not.
Do shit by herself.
I mean, like that's the delusion that we
That's the culture,
reinforce
right? Okay, yeah,
as a society.
yep.
So now, all Kevin Samuels was doing was helping us realize that in real time. If you saying this is why a lot of women can say, "Hey, this is what I want," because you know what society will tell them and allow them to just believe is that no matter how much you fuck up, how many poor decisions you make, how many kids you have, no matter what happens, the perfect guy is just waiting and he's gonna come along, he's gonna save you. Right? And he's gonna be everything you imagine him to be. And that to me is the most impractical shit anybody can believe. But
So it
that's
isn't, and that's one of the places I struggle. Isn't that the father's responsibility to? Because for me, I'm like, hey, I never wanted to date a chick who had kids. I knew I was never going to do it. I'm not saying that if I was single, I wouldn't play with them, right? But from a serious perspective, I would. I was hard on that before I even had kids of my own. That's just something I don't want to do. Nobody. I don't care what society says, right? Like that's for me. It's supposed to be ingrained in a man what you're going to do, what you're going to accept. And I'm weird because peer pressure has no effect on me. Never has, right? And maybe that's and I look at shit through my eyes because that's the only perception that I got. But I look at it and I think you can't you I'm with you on what you said. Let me clarify that. Society did say, hey, listen, you don't know my story. I seen that shit a lot on Facebook. Chick got 3, 4 baby daddies, you know what I'm saying? Then went through all this different shit and you say something, you don't know my story. The hardest job in the world is a single mother or a job of mom, right? A mom's a hard job. It's not the hardest job in the world. Very few people die doing it other than childbirth. So I want to just clarify. Not the hardest shit in the
Yeah,
world.
but you'll be socially castrated
I
for
mean, it's the
saying
truth.
that.
I
I'm
have
just
zero
saying.
problem debating the truth. If somebody want to say they disagree, well, let's talk about it. Because, goddamn it, I had a brother that laid asphalt in Arizona in the summer. That's some hard shit, right? If you can take a nap, doing that shit is not as difficult. And I'm not belittling parenting because that's hard shit to do. But everybody who's a parent has to do it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to do it. It's not something that people die on the regular doing. Again, excluding childbirth, that's serious shit. That's also why I press women to, my daughter included, be very, very careful choosing who you give access to your body to because that childbirth can take you out the game, right? And I'm not talking from a dating perspective. I'm talking life.
Yeah.
Uh, but that, in my opinion, is the reality. So society, I don't know. Again, I'm different, and I struggle with looking at things only from my perspective. But the peer pressure of making someone do something that they know is wrong for themselves is crazy to me, right? Like, dude, if you have no children and you like a chick and she's got multiple kids, you don't owe her shit. Now, if you want to date her, that's on you, right? Understand.
No, you're gonna be expected to become their father. That's
No,
what you're gonna be
if you
expected to
date her,
do.
you have to. That's the rule.
Yeah.
If you pick her, because she'd probably be weird as a mom if she dated a dude who's like, nah, but you can't never do nothing for my kids. You never have to.
I don't think it's necessarily about that. It's saying that I'm still you're not you shouldn't put the expectation of me compensating for their father on me.
Right? That's their father's
My
responsibility.
expectation should be that I should be a man to you and in front of your children. And you know what I mean? So if we say if we move in, if I move into your house and okay, I'm gonna pay some bills in here, right? Like that's taking care of your children too,
Right.
right? But if you want me to really put them under my wing and actually nurture them as a father, I think that's where you may be being a little bit unfair because you know what I mean it should really be up to me as to whatever however I extend myself.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? But that's not really what the culture will tell you. You know what I mean? The culture will say that you're supposed to. They come up with this delusional lie of you're supposed to love them like they're your own, and it's men that'll say that I love them like
Bro.
my nigga. No, you don't.
So that's, bro. I gotta find it real quick and see if I can share it. So I saw this story. The dude was like, and excuse me for jumping in. My
No, you
apologies.
good. You good.
Dude was like, or it was a chick post. He said, my husband tripping. So they both have kids, right? So it's a blended family. They both have children. I believe the kids were 2 sons were about to graduate 8th grade, right? And the father was like, hey, so my son, I'm taking my son on a trip, right, for his 8th grade graduation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just taking my son.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking your son or daughter, whatever it is. And the chick was like, he's dead wrong for that, right? Because he wants to do something for only his kid instead of doing something jointly. And I'm like, I'm all for in agreement. Like that's his son. He's got both kids have a father, both kids have a mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's you know what I'm saying. Like to me, that's not abnormal, right? Like I would probably do the same if I was in that situation. I'm looking for this post, bro, because I want to read this shit to you. Let me see.
Man, I'm telling you, that's what I mean. That's why I say some people like Kevin Samuels are necessary, because that was the balance to that narrative. Like, hey, we gotta stop lying to each other. You know, even when you brought up Lizzo, it's like, you know how many people lie to their peers that carry themselves like Lizzo on a daily. and tell them how amazing they look when, you know what I mean, like, no, like you said, nobody really wants to look like that. Now there, I'm not, and it's not about being a
It's not
bigger
knocking
woman,
somebody.
because I know plenty of beautiful bigger women. I'm talking about how she carries herself.
Right,
She literally capitalizes off of being unhealthy.
right, right.
But people will bypass that and say, "Hey, it's a body, it's being body positive." Nah, that's not. It's just delusion, man. I mean, so people like him are very necessary.
Man,
We just don't know how to appreciate it because we like to live in delusion. We like to celebrate cultural evolution every February when we are nowhere near it. We are on a hamster wheel culturally, but every February, we'll tell each other that we proud and we happy and we love each other, when we really don't, because we don't hold each other accountable in our own communities.
okay, I did that. I can roll with. I can roll with. I ain't mad at that. Man, I'm trying to find this. I'm trying to find this fucking post because, bro, it's serious as shit. I'm gonna keep looking as we continue down that path. But there was a lot of people complaining like, oh, she should divorce him, this and the other. Like you said that as a people think you should treat kids like their own. I totally disagree. Right? I would. I can't. Again, I'm not in that situation. But let's say I'm in a situation where I have children. I meet a woman that has children. I've had my kids for 12 years. Magically, I meet this chick. I like her, so I love these kids as much as I love mine that I created for 12 years. I've known
Absolutely
them for
not.
two. That's
Ab-
unrealistic to me,
Absolutely not.
right?
That,
That's also why I told myself I could never be a stepfather because I'm not going to pretend, bro. If I'm in a situation, God forbid, there's a life and death situation where it's my kids and somebody else's, and I have a 1% chance of saving mine and a 99% chance of saving somebody else, I'm taking the 1%, right?
anybody would instinctively.
And so we have this discussion, me and my wife, because we talk about it. My wife's like, women are full of shit. She said, "There's no woman on earth that's going to carry a baby in her belly and love somebody else's the same way." And and I watched my daughter give birth to a kid, bro. I didn't watch the birth. Let me clarify. Somebody think I'm
Yeah,
weird. I
yeah.
did not. I watched from the time she informed us she was pregnant through the growth and the birth of the child. I'm like, man, the way my daughter loves that kid, bro, ain't no way in the world you can love somebody else's baby. And just as my thought process as a woman, as much as you love one that you carried and that grew in your belly and you gave life to,
Hey,
right?
if that was the case, we swap out kids when it's convenient.
Yeah, right.
We would just say, man, because yo, sometimes, or really most times, our kids are more compliant with other people than they are with us at times, right? So we would just
Yeah,
say, hey, when you raise mine, I raise yours because we get along. You know what I mean? It's you. It doesn't work like that.
yeah. That bro, I'm like that one is I gotta find that one because that shit is crazy, bro. I gotta find that story and um, but I'm I comment. I'm like, listen, dude should absolutely let his son know that he loves his son differently than he loves the step kid. Because the second that marriage fails or falls apart, if that happens, you lost access to that kid, right? You no longer can you don't you have to be reasonable and respectful and responsible and understand that you should love a stepchild. If that is your stepchild, you should love that child. You
That's
should treat
easy
that
to
child
do.
like a
It's
kid, like
easy, yeah.
right. But don't confuse the two.
Easy to love a child, right? But I tell you, the risk. See, women can live in that space because they don't typically run
They
that
typically it's
risk.
their kid,
Yeah,
right?
they don't run that risk. They don't have to deal with everything that comes with raising somebody else's child, right? So here's the thing: if we're gonna live in that space, then we're gonna accept the liability to come with it. So any child would rather have their biological mother and father. So let's say you a father and you step into this place and you start to comp for where this man lacks at any point he can show up and he'll still have authority and you'll run the risk of that child that you invested in still gravitating towards their biological parent, which they should,
Right, 100%. Nobody's
right?
mad at that.
And I'm talking about even in their successes, even in those moments where you really want to celebrate what you poured into this child, and then them having the desirable outcomes. Their parent can still show up and take that space, which is rightfully theirs.
Right. and that's expected, right? I mean, I don't think
Right. Why wouldn't a child? I mean, that's just, so I just think we have an issue with, see, we want to stay in those spaces because it makes us less accountable and responsible for building strong family units. We shouldn't even be having these conversations like that. That shouldn't even be a thing that, a package deal or what. No, the package deal is when a man and a woman make a child, that's the package deal right there.
you raise that motherfucking kid,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
That's
no
your
matter
kid,
what.
no matter what. I couldn't. Yeah, right. You were the father, you're the mother,
Because
right?
guess what? If I was, say I married, say I had a child with this woman and I was being a present father, even though we weren't together, then that would mean me showing up almost daily to the house, you know what I mean? And just being very present. What man is going to allow that? I'm talking about the other man that's with you.
That,
He's not going.
reason
So
number
what?
two.
So what that does is so by reinforcing that narrative, it by proxy is counterproductive to building strong traditional family units, because having another person there is gonna really keep that person, the biological parent, at bay to a certain extent. Am I
Right,
tripping?
because no, you're not right. And I asked that question in the Facebook group. I'm like, listen, I framed it this way. I said, if your kids are at a babysitter's, can you pull up unannounced? If your kid is at the other parent's house, can you pull up unannounced? Everybody's like, at the babysitter, hell yeah, I'm pulling up unannounced. But can't nobody pull up unannounced to my house, regardless of whether they're the parent or not. And that's that. That I mean, I understand the concept behind it because society says it's crazy. Because if you got a man and your baby daddy pull up, he gonna question why he's just pulling up. When in reality, like, oh, he here
Right.
to see his kid. That's
I
what he
have a
should be doing.
child here, right? I have a
Right,
child here,
right. There shouldn't you shouldn't have to call to go see your kid,
right?
right?
But
Understand
that's
everybody, but that's the situation I think we put ourselves in, right? We
yeah.
put ourselves in that situation by not doing what's necessary to maintain the family unit. And I'm not saying that divorce and
Being
separation
selfish. It's just
is
being
is is,
selfish.
un, is unrealistic because it happens. But you don't
Look,
have to not um, allow the family unit to continue, right?
so many times, and I don't mean to be rude,
Are you
but
good? You good?
I want us to get this thought out. So many times, Kevin Samuels would instruct women to go and try to work it out with their baby daddies.
I did see that. I
He,
did
you
see
know what I
that.
mean? Because it was the most logical thing based on just for the children.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is people don't want to admit that our selfishness is what got us in these positions.
Uh,
Even
uh,
having a baby prematurely or having a baby with the wrong person is a result of selfishness, not
right.
not prioritizing the needs of that potential child, that potential procreation before you made that decision. Because if you did, then we would most definitely not, we would not be procreating at the rate that we are. But you know what they get to do? They get to hide behind their abortion rate. You know what I mean? Like if you look at the abortion rate alone, that would show you how selfish that we are as a culture.
Yeah. It's insanity, and that's an interesting topic because I'm definitely pro-choice, uh, but I also
What's pro-choice to you?
pro-choice is not my decision. I hate the concept of abortion, but I also understand I can't have one. I understand that the way the world is set up, I control who I impregnate. I do not control who carries my kid to full term. I understand that. Therefore, from my perspective, I have to, and every other man should put a hell of a lot of thought into who you hit raw, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand that it is a woman's legal right to do so, and it is not my place to be able to say whether you can or can't.
Do when you say you understand, do you agree?
I do agree because again, I know the control I have. I have control of my body. Nobody can take shit from it to do anything with. And I understand that once I give it away, it's out of my control. I don't like it, but I understand and I do agree with it.
Right,
Right?
but okay, so are y'all not making the same pro-choice when y'all procreate, that if y'all are going to do what it takes to make a child that obviously needs to be taken care of? Is
You
that not the
absolutely
choice right there?
you should be doing what it takes to raise that kid 100%.
No, I'm saying because I'm pro-choice, right? But I'm just saying the choice is whether we have sex and procreate or not. Like that's the choice. Once we meet here, because it takes both. Yeah, of course, the woman carries a child, right? But both men and women are equally necessary to procreate.
But the risks are different. right? 100% the risks are different. There's once I short of catching something from her, once I bust, I have zero risk of any health complications, right? Zero risk. Nothing's gonna happen to my body, right? There's no risk for me at all to carry the child.
Yeah, but no woman is exempt. So even a married woman that's
I'm with you.
that you know what I
Nobody's
mean.
exempt from it.
So I'm
But
I'm saying that to me becomes a scapegoat. You know,
no, I'm
by
telling you my reasons, right? I can just give you my reasons, right? I don't think, again, I'm not a fan of it. So let me clarify. I'm not a fan of it. It's not like, oh, you should have an abortion. Go ahead. I'm not a fan of it. But I'm also, that's not, I don't think that's a choice I should be able to take away from somebody. Um, I feel extremely fucking horrible for any man who wants a kid and it gets aborted,
what
right?
I'm saying is I'm saying why is that to me is not a choice. That is an escape route. It's not a choice when you like. I mean, because if okay, if even if I'm married and my wife and I want to have a child and we intentionally create a child, and in shortly after conception, it is made clear to us that this is an extreme health risk. You know what I mean for her. I think we both would agree that we want to keep you safe. So you know, I mean, now it's still the same thing, but I'm saying that that's where our choice is still the same. So at the end of the day, I'm talking about two people who procreate and outside of health reasons want to abort that responsibility. To me, that's not pro-choice. That's murder.
I mean, but it's still murder if her life is at risk, is it not? I mean, if we believe it's murder, it's murder. No. Listen,
Yeah,
listen,
but it
so
is.
it,
But I'm saying our choice is us, her, and my point with that was that our choice would be the same. We both have a choice in that.
but is it not murder though? I mean, if it's murder one way, it's murder during. If it's incest, it's murder. If it's I mean, it's still
Nah,
murder.
because I think because
Murder is the
the
act, is it
the
not?
intent. No, it's the intent.
So taking a life, because that's what we're referring to, right? For me, the reason is it doesn't matter. If I'm taking a life, I'm taking a life, right?
Okay, let me.
Now I'm talking to baby. I'm not talking self defense, this, that, or the other, right?
No,
I'm
no, I know
simply
what you're saying.
so go ahead.
Okay, so let's parallel that to driving, right? We all know what the risk is,
Hmm.
right? So me driving, I'm following the rules, I'm aware, I'm coherent, um, and due to whatever conditions beyond my control or whatnot, I get into an accident, someone's life is taken. Versus me drinking, driving, speeding, not paying attention, texting and driving, and then I take someone's life. Now that wasn't mine. That wasn't my intent. But me being irresponsible that's murder because it was my irresponsibility.
But the circumstances on taking a life, the process, right, is exactly the same for.
It's not that. How is that
Listen to me
exactly the same?
for abortion, for stupid ass reasons, and for health reasons. The proceed to have it is exactly the same. There's a fetus that is. I don't want to get too technical, but I look
No,
at and I look at it different, right? So your driving thing is, I made a decision to get in the car, right? I made a decision to get in the car and I did something stupid and this happened, right? The other one is I got in the car, did everything right, and this happened. Shit happens. I would link that more of a abortion versus a miscarriage. That's how I would look at it.
right. No, but one is circumstantial and one is consequential.
But both are with the drinking and driving versus an accident, those are different actions. An abortion is an abortion, right? Regardless of how we got there, this is the same. We're making a decision to terminate a life, right? For one reason or another. And and again, I want to clarify, right? I'm not saying that I'm happy for abortions at all, right? I don't like the concept.
No, I know you saying, but you saying you have a level of empathy as it relates to a woman's right to abort a child.
I'm I'm not one to. That's not the. I understand the laws and the rules and how procreation works, right? I only control what happens with sperm in my body. I cannot control what happens when I give it to somebody else. And I don't get to make the decision, nor should I, whether or not they keep that child. right? That's my thought process, and I know we disagree, and that's okay, right? And
Yeah, but I'm not challenging the disagreement. I'm challenging the logic under which you say you sit under, because what
it,
I'm saying is
it's not
this.
my body. That's purely what it is. It's not my
Right.
body,
I mean, my body ain't your body. You know what I mean? It's still that
right?
I don't think that that should be that has nothing to do with once you make a decision to do what we all know it takes to. Let's say we can take away we can make rape and extreme health conditions exempt. We can do
So
that.
stop right
Right?
there, right? Hold on for a second. See, if I was, you have to have this kid. You have to have this kid across the board. I have more respect for somebody who's like, I don't believe in abortion under any circumstance than I do under certain circumstances because it's not about
No,
the
I
belief.
don't. It's still the same thing. I'm saying I don't believe in it, but what I'm saying is that I understand nuances in a conversation. This is purely for conversational
Okay,
purposes.
okay.
So for me, no, it is what it is. But I'm saying that when you have to look at the numbers when you
Oh, it's
say
fucking horrible.
that, yeah. So I'm talking about the numbers of the
I don't.
reasons
Yeah.
for it. Like there's a fraction of
So
abortions that take place because of rape. There's a
right,
fraction
right.
of abortions that take place
So,
because
so
of you know.
let me take a step back. You're right. This shit's crazy, and what I think is we need to find a way to counteract the process that leads there. Right? I used to spend a lot of time traveling to China. Like China for a while had a crazy ass 2 kid rule. Right? You can
Yeah, I
have two
remember that.
kids,
Yep.
and
Yep.
the third one gonna cost you $50,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Abortion wasn't an option. Right? The pregnancy. Right? You know what I'm saying? So I think, and this is, it's I will never do it. Right? I'm speaking hypothetically because we will never do it.
Right. And that's on purpose. That's what I'm saying.
100%. Right? But there should be something in place that requires a couple to either one be married prior to conception
Hmm.
or married during conception or
Hmm.
married x number of months after life is created or
I
a
agree hundred
heavy ass
percent.
fine should be levied, right?
I agree 100%.
And that would deter a lot of what happens, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's entirely too easy for people to make babies,
It's
right?
reinforced, is what I'm saying. Like it's reinforced. Hy- a sex is a huge part of capitalism.
Yeah.
So you have to reinforce it for it to be lucrative, and they reinforce it through industries like porn, through options like abortion, through the media. I mean, and through even the child support system. And that's intentional. It is not to benefit a child.
So let me ask this because I've noticed, and I'm gonna get multicultural here. There are specific areas of culture that are pushing for lack of abortion because they're producing less kids that look like them, right? It is when I look at the deep south traditional white males, they are calling for a stop completely to abortion for on just like if you look at what is it Alabama I think it was Alabama just passed a crazy ass law or Arkansas one of them down there they don't want or Arizona my bad I'm lying Arizona just had a law that passed. They're like they don't want no exceptions for nothing, right?
What do
I
you
think
mean?
no exceptions from an abortion standpoint,
So
right?
what does that mean? Like
But
in
no exceptions, rape, incest, none of that.
oh, they're saying that
Right.
they don't
These were
want.
right, but I
Okay.
think people are pushing these laws because, and I'm being specific here. I think there's an older generation of white males that are like, hey, we're not producing enough white people right now. Why minorities of different cultures are mass reproducing, which is probably
Is that just your thought, or do you have
well,
something that?
I'm looking at data, right?
Okay.
And if you look up the data, uh, white people are not having enough babies, right?
Okay.
And compared to other races, right?
Okay.
Primarily African Americans or people they consider African. I just call us Americans, but for the purpose of the
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Latino or Hispanic Americans, right? Which hey, that's one of the reasons I think abortion is pushed so much in our community, right? Let's offset that population.
Okay.
Um, so again, I'm not like just out here willy nilly like, hey, you don't like this dude you had sex yesterday, y'all don't like it, have fucking abortion. That's not who I am. I think we have to come up with a solution to the pregnancy, right? To the pregnancy, not necessarily out of wedlock, but the pregnancy with no intention of a somewhat traditional family.
But you already said it though. See,
It ain't gonna happen.
but right. I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying. Let's just call the conversation. Let's meet it where it's at. Like, we know what's likely or unlikely to happen. But when we start to figure out these creative ways to adapt to this error in humanity, then I think that's just giving people more of an out. You already said it. If it's mandated because other cultures do it and it works. If we hold people accountable in terms of their commitments, like if you're going to conceive, then you have to be married. It's mandatory. And
Yeah,
if you want out of that situation, the society should make it extremely uncomfortable. I think child support is too easy. It's too easy.
it is.
You know what I mean? Like, no, make it uncomfortable. If you knew that, hey, if as a man, if you're not gonna be married to this woman, then you're gonna have to make sure that she has a house, she has a car. Like you're gonna basically still have to play every role
Play the
except,
marriage role.
man, trust me. You know what I mean?
Shit would
Like
change in a heartbeat.
because that's just what it is. Like
It's
that's how it should be.
it's next to impossible to have multiple kids in multiple households or multiple kids by multiple people in multiple households and raise them with what they need, right? Because time is one thing children need. It
Presence.
right? Money matters, right? Because we can't eat without it, we can't sleep without it, we can't get from point A to point B without it. But money's not enough. And I would even go as far as say money isn't as valuable as the time and the presence, right?
Absolutely.
Because I know people who grew up super fucking poor, but they had love in that house, right?
Yeah.
And that love in that house allowed those children to become much better financially for their children, still sharing the same love, sharing the same shit they grew up with.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what though? Women these days, they're gonna always a lot of them gonna always have a but. It's gonna be a but. They know that too, but there's gonna be a but when it comes to, the financial aspect of it when there is no data that shows that money is even a fraction of value a value as a present father.
I think there's two parts of that. There's a lot of cats that's not gonna do it, right? I have family members that's not gonna do it,
Not
right?
gonna do what?
Fucking anything with their kids, anything whatsoever.
All right, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then. Do you think that how likely do you think it is that a man will present himself as an honorable and responsible and accountable man, and then just totally flip after he has a child?
I don't think it's likely at all, right?
If you had to put a percentage of how,
I'll
what do
go
you say?
15% because I think people don't realize the responsibility that the kids come with until you fucking have one.
Right. So
Right?
yeah,
I would
yeah,
say 15% of people
like
were like, you know what, I can't deal with this shit.
yeah, those like it's just too heavy for them, and
It's
they
too
really
heavy.
didn't.
I didn't know this is what it
Right.
was.
So guess what? If we just examine that right there, then all that means is that hey, we just have to properly vet. We have to commit
I'm
with
with you.
other forms of commitment. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to ask you that because I just think we don't be asking the right questions. We have this conversation from a very shallow perspective. It always comes down to like just two people who just didn't work out. Like,
No,
that's what it
it's
comes
way
down
too much
to.
shit. I had this discussion with my boy earlier. I'm like, bro, everybody I know that broke up, damn near everybody I know that broke up, skipped some major ass red flags. I'm talking people
Okay,
with kids, not regular
give me some
relationships,
examples. Give me some
right?
examples.
So I had a homie, him and his wife broke up. She had, well, don't get mad at me. She had two kids from two different cats before they got together. To me, that's a red flag. That's
Okay, you think it's a red flag?
yes, because you've had two times with two different men, right? And the same
Uh-huh.
applies to, and this is my opinion, the same applies to men with multiple baby mamas. Like I'm not saying you're wrong, but risk factor. Let's look at risk factor,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
If I look at the risk factor alone, its chances are this didn't. You probably love the first one or the second one more than you love me, right? Because that was your first or your second, right? So and it didn't work out. Something's wrong there. Either you're incompatible, you're difficult to deal with, or you have a horrible picker, and maybe I'm part of your horrible picking, right? So and then I got other homies who I had a homie, I love him to death. You know, he married his woman because she wouldn't have sex with him if they wasn't married. She was not a virgin, right?
Uh-huh.
But she ain't gonna, if we don't get married, she ain't having sex. I'm not a fan, and I respect it. Let me say that I respect anybody who has celibacy, who's on their celibacy mission.
Yeah.
From my perspective, you can't sell me celibacy unless you were a virgin. You
Okay.
can't tell me something tells me, to me, that's a flag that I wouldn't cross, right? I would sit down with any potential person. I'm not a young man, right? So the older you are, the more serious you have to be with this shit.
Hmm.
I would formulate a list of things that I had to ask you and know prior to us. Again, if marriage and
Yeah.
or childbirth is my goal, I would have to sit down and ask you a lot of shit that matters. Your credit score, right? Your financial history,
Yeah.
your retirement plan, right? Those are the high level shits, right? That if you meet those things, now we can start talking about how your family is, right?
Yeah.
What is I'm okay with asking you. Now, this again, from my perspective, shit probably would none of it would get answered, but I need to know who your exes are, right? Because I need to look at the quality of people you dated, right? I don't want to be. This is gonna sound fucked up. A lot of men are like, oh, I gotta be the best you ever had. I don't want to be the best you ever had,
Hmm.
right? I don't want to be the best person you ever dated because that means your history is your decision making skills is fucked up in my
Yeah.
opinion, right? If I'm
Okay.
the best person you've ever dated, unless we all in the same social circle, and I don't mean social circle, but level wise, right? We all
Yeah.
have, but if everybody you dated is unemployed and had a bunch of kids, and I at this point I'm a savior, right? I'm a solution, right?
Yeah.
So I would put people through the motherfucking ringer, right?
Bro, so I don't know if you realize it right or not, but you you ain't saying nothing. You're saying the exact same shit that Kevin Samuels was saying.
But to me, it's natural, right? Like nobody had to teach me that
I
shit.
okay, but I'm just saying that if
Again,
you
I got no beef with the message or the messenger.
right, but I'm saying you would be vilified by the culture if you are going to this commentary is going to bring about the same energy. You just not making a living out of that, but I'm saying it's the same shit. So that's why I'm like,
So let's go down that path because there's certain shit that to me is unacceptable, right? When we started, again, now I try to justify my statements. Like when I say I never date a single mother, I also say I'll never create one. Right? Like I'm not just gonna sit here and have 16 babies and then be like, yeah, but I ain't fucking with a chick that got kids by somebody. That's not who I am. But my rules are my rules. They don't have to work for anybody but me. Right? And if my rules are so strict that I can't find somebody, then I have to ask myself, do I want to compromise or do I want to remain single? Right? But I would have my list of must-haves, and then I would have my list of negotiables. Right?
okay,
Right? And my negotiable list would be something like, would I date a chick, right, that had adult kids? Well, was she married to one man, to their father for this amount of years, and
hmm
they got divorced because whatever, or did he pass away? Type shit. Like that
yeah,
would be my
yeah,
negotiables,
yeah,
right? But
I understand that.
if and looking at that in my life now, I would have to reevaluate that because, bro, if you have grandkids, like I just had grandkids, I know how valuable that time is. Now I might even be like, that's not negotiable no more because if you have grandkids now, you on baby duty, I'm back on baby duty,
Right.
right? So
Okay.
that's the perspective I didn't have. So I would have to reevaluate my list.
Okay.
It would be, again, I'm not a body count dude. I'm a body quality dude, right? I'm going to ask questions about the cats you slept with, not because I want to see how many it was. I want to see what type they were, right?
Right.
If
Right.
I call it poor pussy management, right? If
Yeah.
you letting bums smash, you are not ideal for me, right? Your decision making skills are questionable,
So
and I
that's
might
what he
have
was
to rely
saying.
on you,
That's what he was saying. But he would just have them answer it. He would just set the women up, or in men too, to where
right?
they
Right?
have to answer, and then he would just tell them what they just told him. And so
I mean, it's entertainment purposes. I get it,
right.
right?
But I'm saying that at the end of the day, like we all know that there are nuances, there are exceptions, right? Everybody knows that. Like nobody's saying that the woman who has, let's say, a woman had 3 or 4 kids, 3 to 5 kids, and by the same man and was married for 20 years, then they get a divorce, and then they meet another man like that. Okay, everybody knows that's a whole different situation. That's not what we're talking about. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
Like
right.
it's nothing wrong with dating women with children. We're talking about the irresponsibility of it. We're talking about what does the majority of cases represent as far as in our culture is people making children irresponsibly with people that it never, they never even seen themselves with. They never even talked about what life would look like with like what their goals are as just even a single, just a unit without children. People, I like, how many people do you think have children with each other and then they start to plan life after their children come? You,
Shit, probably the majority.
you see what I'm saying? Like, I
Right.
mean, but two people who are going to experience each other and really get to know each other and talk about, you can date a person and listen to them talk about what their plans are, how they see life, and then you have your idea of how you see life, and you can really decide right there. You know what, y'all
It
is
don't take long.
probably better off as friends, right? But you know what
Right.
we started to do? We
Start
started to
smashing.
convincing ourselves that we
Yeah.
can we are we love this person so much that we're willing to kind of change our like. Hey, that's
So
your fault then.
right. So that is something that again, me and one of my guys talked about. I said, listen, we are the logical ones. As men, we are typically supposed to be logical thinkers.
Yeah,
I
supposed to
don't
be.
hold women as accountable for making emotional decisions as I do us for making illogical decisions. Because we are supposed to come to the table with the logic. I understand how women work, right? You make them feel good enough, you do enough right shit, they'll throw red flags out the window. Like, yeah, but he makes me feel good, right? Emotionally, it makes sense. Um, but as men, we got to make those difficult logical choices,
Let me
right?
ask you something. With your daughter, like how did, if you don't mind sharing, how did that situation go? Like, were they already married before they had to
No,
conceive the child? Or
so first, so me and my daughter have a very open relationship, and my son as well. I told my kids early on, you don't come to me with anything, right?
yeah,
Come to me with
yeah,
anything. I prefer you come to me. As long as you come to me, I will not have an issue with it. Um, if somebody else brings it to me about you, that's where the issue comes
right,
about.
right,
So
right.
my daughter was very open with me about her whole life, right? Her first boyfriend, her husband now is her second boyfriend.
Okay.
Um, he
You
came to
said
me,
you said her husband. He's only the second person that her.
yes, yes,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
She had her first boyfriend when she was 19,
Okay.
right? And again, we have those discussions, right? I
Yeah,
won't
yeah,
go into
yeah,
details, right? But this is
yeah,
her
for sure,
second boyfriend,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
And he talked to me and wanted to, oh, I love your daughter. This and that's what we want to do. This great. Let's get it done, right? You seem like a good dude. I can only judge what I know,
Right.
right? We raised her enough to do this. So um, when he started talking, wanting to have a family, the pregnancy happened before the marriage. I mean, I ain't mad at that, right?
Right. But they had already established they wanted a family. Is my
Right.
question.
Yes, that was a part of it, right?
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, I fully support it. I encourage it. Let's embrace it. It wasn't a slip up. It wasn't something where like, well, I met this dude and now this is what we own,
Yeah, yeah. It
right?
wasn't them adapting to their circumstances. Is them they created their
Right.
circumstances with intention. Is what my.
Right. Now, whether or not they were truly ready is a different question,
I
right?
don't think you're ever really ready. I
Right.
just, you know what I mean? I'm saying, but so do you, and I'm asking this partly because I have daughters, right? And I'm
Right.
trying to, do you think that it's practical for, if me to my daughter to say, hey, if you, if you are into this man and you want to see yourself with him, and that's what y'all conversations or that's what y'all intention seems to be, then it would be wise for you to at least require some kind of, maybe marriage or maybe buy a house with them first,
Some
commit
long
to
term
something,
commitment.
yeah, some long, and then function in that before, you have a child with them. Do you think that that is logical or practical?
I mean, it again, it depends. Yes, I do. Let me clarify and say that. Yes, I do. It depends on your daughter, right? Like I told mine, hey, if y'all want to talk about having family, then y'all need to create one, right? Like marriage is in my opinion, my lifestyle, that's the family. And to be fair, to be up in front and honest, my wife had our son before we were married, right? It was on the goal was
Right,
just
but did y'all wanted to
a
be
hundred
together?
percent.
Y'all wanted to build a family. So that's what I'm
A
saying.
a
That's
100%. We were
okay.
young. I
Okay.
knew, and I had this discussion with my boy earlier. I said, man, in talking to my fucking therapist, there's some reasons behind it, but I was very particular on the type of person, not racial. That like race made no difference. It was qualities that I wanted to have in a woman. I said, man, when I find that, I'm gonna go all in. Right now, I didn't go all in properly necessarily because I was young and dumb. Right, but those were the things. Once, so when I got with her, And obviously not from day one,
Yeah,
right?
but
Because we had
how old were y'all?
15, right?
Okay.
But I knew at 12. So this is what's crazy. I remember sitting down in my house at 12 years old and saying, "Man, I will never." This is fucked up, right? But I was like, I will never be a stepfather. I will never have kids that were, and my concern at the time was having kids in two different places that I had to do something for, right? And that was because
So
I had
you
a
identified the reason why you were okay. You just getting ready to say it. Go ahead.
so I had a friend who one a good friend of mine when I was younger, right? And he had older siblings from a previous, his father had a previous marriage, and I saw the destruction
Okay.
that caused.
Okay.
He had to make a decision on where he was going to be when you had two kids in different places having an event at the same time. Because here's the reality: as a man, if I was married to a woman, first kid by somebody else, or married to a woman, and my second kid is with my second wife, whoever I'm with that has a kid, that's the kid I have to go to the event for. Because if I don't, shit's gonna be rough from that point on out,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that's crazy. And then I thought about how it would make the kid feel because the kid has no input on that.
Okay.
And I wasn't in that situation, right? Like we weren't we weren't in a scenario where my dad had to choose between us and somebody else. But for me, I was like, man, that's just crazy. And then I remember one night, bro. This is me being all the way real with the whole world. I remember seeing my mom one day. I was young. I can't remember. I was very young, 9, 10, 11 years old, something, struggling with bills. Right? She crying and shit, and I don't know what's going on. Right? So I look at my mom. I only know it was bills. I realized it was bills later because she was writing and looking at some documents and shit. And I
Uh-huh.
told myself, I said, man, my kid's mom will never struggle as long.
Okay.
I can't. In reality, I can't prevent it. But in my mind, I'm like, never. Right? I'll do whatever the fuck I have to do to make sure she's not in that predicament. And I did some dumb shit in my life to make sure she wasn't in that predicament. But so for me, my shit came from just
So trauma. Yours are trauma induced.
right. So I'm like, but don't put somebody else in the situation. Right. So I put a lot of thought and effort into what I needed in a woman, in a girlfriend. Let me say it that way. And I had other, you got to speak proper English. You got to be nice. You got to be able to get along with people. There's a whole lot of shit that I had on my list as a young man. But all bullshit aside, I knew people. I knew a girl who was 13 with a baby. Like that shit was unacceptable.
Yeah.
Right? She was
Yeah.
13 with a baby. I think I was 14. Like I met her. Right? I knew. This was back in the day. I don't even remember how the hell we met. I think it was like the phone little chat back then, right? You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
phone numbers you would call, whatever. And the
Yeah.
chick was 13 with a baby, right? I was so young, I didn't realize she was pregnant at 12, right? That never crossed my mind, right? But I'm like, damn, like this chick's out here with babies, and we had a kid with a chick we went to high school with had a baby. Back then when you got pregnant, they shipped you off either south or north, depending on where your family was,
Yeah.
and you came back with a new sibling,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy. But nah, but so going back to what I was saying, and I know I went on a little tangent there. Um, it I absolutely am with that. I think the conversation that we need to have with our kids as parents is this: if you do not want somebody to be your wife or your husband, do not make them a mother or father, because if they're not valuable enough to be a spouse, which is a contract you can break, right? They're not valuable enough to make you a father or mother, or for you to make them a father or mother, because that is a contract you cannot break.
I guess the question is, okay, we got to figure out with this new generation, how are we going to communicate that effectively? Because I shared that information with my sons, and one of
It's
them,
hard, bro. Because it's hard because I think the value comes in showing they have to be raised in that environment where
okay, okay.
you know
So it's a
it's
culture thing.
it's a culture thing. Because I remember a lot of my kids' friends saying little different things when they were in the car with our, on the kids. Man, it's nice. You got both your parents, right? We got two moms and two dads. Like that shit fucks with kids.
Yeah,
People don't want
yeah,
to
yeah,
admit to it, right?
yeah.
But it
Real
bothers
talk,
kids, right?
real talk.
And they're like,
Yeah,
oh man, your parents are happy, this and that. Because don't get me wrong, bro. We fought. We had fights, and we're human.
yeah,
But overall, a lot more happiness than anything else. And kids see that, and I think seeing your mom and dad grow up together and raise them makes them want to do the same shit,
yeah. I agree.
right? But
I
also
agree.
not seeing your mom and dad grow up in the same house makes them want to do the same shit.
That's facts.
right? It's justifiable because it's the do as I say, not as I do shit that we really know don't work, right? If I tell my kids don't smoke weed and I'm in the crib smoking weed all the time, it's 99% chance they're gonna pick that shit up earlier than they should have,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So as parents, and this goes back to what you were saying a couple weeks ago, gotta figure that shit out. Gotta figure out how to coexist and co-parent and say, this is my primary responsibility, right? I don't want to say, I don't want to word, I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean it in literally, but when you have a kid, your life ends. You are no
yeah,
longer living for you,
yeah.
right? And that selfishness that you talk about, right, that people have,
Uh-huh.
is what leads people to be like, well, it don't matter, right? I mean, it didn't work out, it didn't work. I know a chick she's got kid number 6, bro. 2 by 3, I think is how it works out. And ain't never had a ring, ain't never, it's just like, god damn, right? And she's fucking beautiful, bro. Like, you had choices, right? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand, right? I don't know her family history. I don't know it. I know it.
Yeah,
If I
I mean,
had to,
we know it was we know it's something there,
something
right?
wasn't right,
And
right?
that, but there's so going back to when you were initially talking about K. Samuels, right? I just think that once again he was necessary because what he was essentially doing was scolding the culture, and sometimes we need scolding. We need
Right, all the time.
we
Shit, like,
I'm saying that just like with your own kid, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you gotta get on. Like that's the importance. He was just being a father to me. He
okay.
was just being a
And
father.
so that's how I used to word it when I talked a little shit. I'm like, Kevin Samuels didn't teach you anything your father. If he taught you something your father did,
That's what
that's how I.
I'm saying. That's what but you already were saying that. You were saying this is stuff you should have. But let me clarify. When you said that, did you mean that like to say that this is stuff that I knew because of my father?
100%. My father,
Okay.
my older brothers, right?
Yeah, yeah, older like just older men because I'm
And the
saying
older men in the community in general, right?
that's why I say that like I don't knock a man that decides to adopt children and raise them, you know what I mean, as his own. I just have to highlight the reality that you cannot love a child like your own if it didn't come from your, you know what I mean,
Right.
from you
Hey, listen,
genetically.
I'm all for the adoption. I think if you're gonna, and so that's a whole different piece. But if you're gonna date a woman with kids, you should have the intention to adopt those
Maybe
kids. If
that
you
maybe okay, so maybe that's maybe an alternative solution, right? Like it
right,
should be you have to legally adopt, you
those
know what I
become
mean?
legally your. Now, obviously, again, I don't know the ins and outs of adoption. Is I assume the other parent
The
has to
other parent,
relinquish.
right,
Right,
right. So guess what? Once again, reason why I say that's an alternative solution because it would still confront us. We'd be forced to have to look at
right. Do
the
you want to
reality
deal
of
with your kid or not?
you know
Right,
what
because
I'm
somebody
saying?
else is willing to deal with your kid.
Right. And
Right.
if you do, then you're gonna have to be very present, which means I'm gonna be in a polygamous relationship, essentially, right?
The only flip side of that is, and this is me kind of trying to look at both ends. I think a lot of chicks would be like, okay, marry me, adopt me, and now you got damn it owe me child support when I dip on you because now these are legally your children because the
Yeah,
first cat
that's
wasn't given.
but
But
that's
that's go
another part of the no. I just think that with that it needs to be accountability across the board. So no, you shouldn't have the option to be able to marry multiple times like that. If you
okay.
get a if you
Which
get a second time, if you get a second go
listen,
round, this is it. This is it.
so I'm a firm believer of that. Like I argue with my point, man, marriage is between one man and one woman. That's cool, but you can't tell me that on your third marriage, right? Like
Then it's not. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
And I had this conversation with a close person because we were talking about, he's conservative in that aspect. Marriage between one man and woman, two people same sex. I said, bro, you have own marriage 2 or 3 or some shit like that. Your words is out the door because marriage between one man and one woman is not multiple times. It's between one man and one woman. I would absolutely, so I would say a two marriage max, right? Because shit happens, right? And that excludes, widowing shit like that.
But
Widow.
it still should be a two. It still should be guidelines within that would I guess justify a divorce. You know what I mean? Like it has to. These are the reasons why you can get a divorce. It shouldn't just be well you get two options. You get two chances
Right.
because we'll
You're
exploit
right. I
that.
don't
You
like
know
the
what
way
I
he make me
mean?
feel no more. Right. Like
Yeah,
it's
like I just I just
So
think that ultimately, if we just need to be healthier.
there's no to your point we said earlier. There's no obligation. There's no the contracts have way too easy out clauses, so nobody really
Man,
gives a shit.
way too many.
Going
Just
back to Kevin Samuels, I sent a video to my guy. Well, Kevin Samuels talking to was an older black chick, and she was like trying to leave her husband. He's like, "Listen, ain't nothing out here. You should go back." He said, barring, he said, rampant infidelity, abuse, heavy drug use, stuff like that. You should work it out. And my guy was like, "See, this is the truth." I said, "Bro, hypothetically speaking, if you were married to a chick for 10 years and she has some kind of infidelity one time, I'm divorcing." I said, "Then you don't believe the shit you're trying to put out here, right?" Reality says, if this is what you believe it, right? And he said, "Well, it's different for men and women." I said, "Okay, and there are differences, but that's why we where we at, right? If we gonna live by some rules, we got to live by the motherfucking rule, right?" Kevin Samuels said, barring rampant infidelity. I'm not saying she got to go 6 times or he got to go 6 times, but if you dealing with marriage and you are dealing with rules around it, whatever you establish needs to be established for both parties. That's I'm not. I don't want because you're right. There are differences between men and women, but the union is the union, right? The rules of the union should be the same for both people, because
yeah,
each person in the marriage should be able to uphold either end of the bargain, right? Again, it's weird to me. We were having this conversation on my guy's podcast from Minneapolis, and they were talking about relationships, this, that, and who comes first, kid. When it's a kind of a step parent situation, and she's like, "Well, I always put somebody before my kids, or I always put my kids before anybody." And dude said, "You stood in front of the Lord and said, for better or for worse, for richer or poor, sickness or health, blah blah blah, right? So none of that shit mattered." And it shut him up for a minute because they had to
yeah,
think about it, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
again, I'm not the religious dude, but if you're signing that contract in front of the Lord, right? How you gonna say I'm gonna do all this? I'm gonna deal with this person. My life is in His hands and His and mine, and but my kids come from Him if they. And I'm not saying your kids should starve for this man sitting here eating steak and potatoes. I want to clarify. It's when I say the husband comes first or the spouse comes first, I'm talking about internal disagreements, right? Family matters. Your kid comes home and got an attitude, say this, that, or the other. You don't look at the other parent like, "Oh no, he's right." Y'all deal with that shit as parents. You don't disrespect the other parent in front of the kids, right? I'm not. People take that shit to
yeah.
the extreme.
But it's see, like you just said it. I'm saying like, man, we micromanage life so much. This shit is not that hard. Like I think what type of conversation is that? Who comes first? Like they're all different relationships. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like like my mom or my wife or my kids. It's like no,
That shit crazy to me.
I know how to deal with all of them. They all gonna stay in their place, and I'm gonna stay in my I'm gonna
That
stay in
is a
my place.
strong. That's a strong man, right? And that's what we lack. A strong man understands the value, right? And that's what I tell my son-in-law. When you ask my daughter to become your wife, that's got to be the most important person in your life, right? Because you've put her in that position, right? You have to. And I think this was a problem for some of my siblings. Like when I asked my wife to become my wife, she became the most important woman in my life. I still love my mom. I still, you know what I'm saying, love my aunts and all. But if I have to do for and I only capable of doing for, I'm going to do for her because I put her in this position to be the mother of my children.
Yeah, but
Um,
your mother, your parents would want that,
that's
right?
what they're supposed to want. I
Yeah,
think in
like
our community, it's a little different, right?
yeah, you know what it is because a lot of mothers turn their sons into their husbands.
Son husbands is a term that it took me. I heard I was lost for a while. I'm like, what the hell is a son husband? But as
Yeah,
I started
man.
listening,
It's real shit. Like I'm saying, normally you don't see it with men because like we just more logical in that space. Like
right?
I know that like I know this. Even if I'm here, after if I'm 50, 55, I can't protect my daughter the same way as when I was 35. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I know, and I also know that eventually I'm leaving here. She gonna be here. So I want to be able to observe that. So I can
100%.
leave, you know what I mean? I want to see for at least 10, 20 years, a man, he's first. I'm not, we have two
I
different
don't.
roles.
Right.
I'm her father. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see that so I can be at peace.
Right. I mean, that's that's the I think that's traditional shit. we've lost tradition, right? And I think a big part of that, I got a damn moth in my studio, so if you fly past the screen, my apologies,
That's all
right?
good. I probably ain't gonna
But
see it.
but I think we've lost the traditional part of relationships. And with that crumbling of traditional relationships, everything else suffers, right? And I know some people don't like the whole concept of traditional, and that's cool. It ain't for you. Um, but traditional had its obviously, if we look at society right now, it had its benefits,
It
right?
still does. Like
If we
I'm
look at this shit, that the way shit is now, it's messed up for everybody, right?
well in America.
Right, in America, I'm talking about our society, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you leave United States, shit's different. I've got friends from different cultures that have done arranged marriages and shit like that, and I'm like, that's an interesting concept.
If I get a chance to do it, if I can do it, I'm doing it. I'll just say that.
I mean, to keep it real, your parents damn near know you better than anybody else,
I
right?
know that's what I'm saying. Why don't
Assuming
we
you grew
do
up in the
that?
house with them and you were raised right and all that other shit, and they were on their P's and Q's. So arranged marriages is it was a tough concept for me. Like I said, I have a friend that has been through one, and it's great. He's happy they're doing their thing, right? Different culture entirely, right? You know what I'm saying? Definitely not nobody from the U.S.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm gonna shift subject here a little bit. I was in this Facebook group and I saw some shit, and I want to get your opinion on it. Dude was like, he was complaining. He's like, it was something about child support. He was like, she got 3 other baby daddies, blah blah blah. So I said, man, before I answer this question, what baby daddy are you? He's like, I'm number 4. I said, bro, being
Ooh.
number 4 to me is worse than having 4 baby daddies.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And so I posted that shit in the group, and some all the dudes went, hey, oh, hell no, it ain't worse. I'm like, bro, you watched and you looked and you decided to, uh, I don't even know what you want to call it, but again, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, you have to look at
Yeah.
circumstances and say, based on risk factor, this is
We,
crazy. Because he was
we
talking
talked
shit about
about
it,
it
bro.
though.
He was talking
Remember?
shit about it, right? He's like, oh, she lost him. I said, bro, you can't
You
call
have
her
no
lost
right.
and found,
He has no right.
and you are looking for your forever woman in that lost and found.
No, he has no right. That's why it's a different. If I'm the first one,
Nobody can say shit
that
to
you
you,
can't say nothing to me. I'm the
right?
first one.
I did right. Shit went wrong, however it went wrong.
But 3 and 4, what was you thinking? I don't understand it.
That's a tough sale,
That's a
right?
it's not it doesn't it doesn't necessarily it's no disrespect to her. It's just saying that you're thinking as a man. Like where
The logic
explain to
fell
me the
apart.
logic in that.
There is none, right?
She can pan out. She can pan out to be perfect for you,
The
but
best
it
woman in the
still
world,
doesn't. It still doesn't mean that your thinking was still a little bit
right?
flawed.
You hit the lottery,
Like yeah,
right? You know what I'm
it's an
saying?
anomaly.
Right. Chances are it was not gonna go well, and you got lucky. Um, so I was, man, I was going ham with them dudes. Man, he's like, oh man, you taking all responsibility. I said, no, I'm not, bro. I'm not taking no responsibility. I'm not justifying.
What was he trying to say? What was the point of the?
He was saying he was paying. I think he said I don't know. He said 2,000 a month. I don't know what it was. He's like, but the other baby daddies ain't doing nothing, but they got access to her. So basically, he was mad that they spent time with their kids. They didn't spend money.
Mad
Right?
at
She
himself.
was asking him to spend time instead of so much money. Right? Like the money's cool, but you ain't putting no time in. Right? So
Yeah.
it didn't go in his favor. Right? So like I said, I took that and I made a whole new post out of it. I'm like, man, to me, and this is my belief, being the fourth baby daddy is worse than having 4 baby daddies. Right?
I would have to agree. I would have to agree.
I can understand a woman, right? She fell in love multiple times, or she's again, she's not into abortion, made some bad decisions nonetheless.
Not her. That's what I'm saying. That's what I said at the beginning of the conversation. It's a simp culture that reinforces all of this.
Man, it is, bro.
That
Hold on, have you seen these? They're called man boot camps. This is where I struggle with men, bro. Motherfuckers is paying 16, 18, $20,000 to go learn to be a man.
if you got to do that, you ain't gonna be no man at the end of that camp.
And that's where I was at. I was going back and forth with my guy. He's like, man, you be hating on men because doing what they have to do. I said, bro, you can't go learn to be a man. You're not at 30 fucking years old. You are who you gonna be. You can
It's a
improve.
It's a decision. You decide to be a man. You decide
Right.
when you want to
Nobody
be a
can
man.
teach you, bro. I'm gonna send
Nobody.
you the motherfucking link. I'm
Nah.
talking the shit is crazy, dudes. So it's like the I'm gonna call him the simp because that's what he is. The simp dude and the dude that's taking the simp dude's money, right? Like, and they're like pushing each other. He's trying to make him push. He's like, and the dude screaming, "I am a man, I am a man." I'm like, bro, come on, man,
bro.
right?
That's but
But the fact that's a like, it ain't even a
that's
real boot camp, bro. Like, it ain't military
okay.
boot camp.
It's no different than when I see women's empowerment. It's like what? Like come on, like it's like these are the people that we. But you know what? You will culturally we'll celebrate those people, but then we'll vilify people like Kevin Samuels. Like Kevin Samuels ain't trying to get people to follow him. He just talking his shit on his platform.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? But I'm saying when you literally say I'm going to, or even a motivational speaker, like what do you need to like we grow up in a society. We live in a capitalistic society. We know what time it is.
Right.
You don't
Right.
work, you don't eat. You know what I'm saying? What do
Right.
you?
Right.
Your
Hey,
motivational speaker should be your circle or your parents.
right. Grab a book. Right. You know what I'm saying? Grab a
Like,
book.
or
Learn some shit.
go out here and explore.
I'm all for going to improve a skill. Right. You have a skill. You need to improve it. I'm not signing up for. Listen, I don't know how to do this. Some natural shit. Right. If you don't know how to
Yeah, natural
code,
shit.
you got to go learn to
That's
do that.
different.
Right.
No, that's a
But
trade. That's
natural
skill
shit.
shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm all for going to a how to be a better father boot camp. Right. Because that shit's not taught. Right. Naturally, we know the basics, but
Yeah, but you learn through your children.
right. There's no justification for me on how to be a man boot camp unless you're a woman, right? Like
How
I can
so
subscribe to a woman trying to
how
go,
to be a man boot camp?
bro.
How
I'm
to
gonna send you some links, right? And then Wednesday we
like
go.
is it?
It's crazy, bro.
I mean, I'm talking about is this like a real thing?
Motherfuckers is dropping 16, 18 racks, bro, per person to go. Um, man, let me see if I can. Let me, man, it's I
Man,
can't even,
then
bro.
we're done. We're done. I just if that's where we're
It's
at,
nuts.
if that's where we're
And
at,
that's
then
this is me saying society as men are entirely too soft.
yeah. So it's gonna be about 100 years before this shit even.
It's got to fail all the way, right, before it can come back,
It's got to
right?
be this shit. Got to be like Rome. It got to just completely.
I mean, we barring like damn, we damn near need a catastrophic event to weed out the people who can't survive, right? Again, I understand that there's expectations, right? But I don't think like I hate when dudes say I'm matching her energy or I'm holding her to the same standards I'm held to. Like that's not reality, bro. The men are leaders, right? And if I'm matching her energy, I'm really not doing my part, right? Because her energy shouldn't be matched.
What does that look like? What's an example of matching energy?
Oh, she complaining about men on, she complaining about men and ain't no good, so you gonna complain about all the women ain't no good. Just like a prime example. I'm talking to one of my guys about. He's like, man, you think you different. If you went to this environment, them bitches wouldn't pay you no attention. I said, you're probably right, but I also wouldn't go in that environment. I would never want to be around the type of women that you date, right? And I'm not talking race. I'm talking quality. The type of women that I'm not, he's like, well, you don't understand how these chicks want this, and this. I'm like, bro, put yourself around different women. Your problem is not, the problem is the women you put yourself around. You want these women to be what they're not. It's never going to happen.
It's really how you respond. It ain't even always the women you put yourself around. It's how you respond to those women, right? Because I say it like this is most men don't even want to realize the fact that 9 times out of 10, being willing, I mean, not entertaining bullshit is the solution to it.
100%.
So you can deal with no matter like a woman as long as if she is complaining about you as a man, hey, you have the option to I release you with love, and they
100%.
and just give them a day or so, they'll figure it out, or they're gonna try it, and guess what? You just did yourself a favor.
But I think too many of them hold on too long, right? You know what I'm saying? You're right. They
Yeah,
try it and
you tolerate shit too long.
tolerate shit too long. Uh,
That's I'm just if you can be as a man, as a leader, like you don't reinforce negative behaviors or undesired behaviors, and toleration is a form of reinforcement.
no doubt. I'm putting up with this bullshit, which
So
means it's
yeah,
okay.
simple as long as if you know who you are, a lot of men don't we don't know who we are. We ain't looked in the mirror and figured out who we are and decide and just stand and you stand on it. Once you do that and you make it clear, because a woman gonna respect man, most women, unless she's just totally unruly, in which case you shouldn't
That's
tolerate that at
right.
all.
That's on you. You stay it.
Yeah, but most women, they don't mind being corrected if you standing on business as a man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just
Yeah.
make it clear. I'm gonna give you this one reminder. You know what I mean? Hey, this ain't who I am. This is not
Right.
what I tolerate. But you free to be whoever you want to be.
It's a motherfucking muffler.
I seen
I
it.
have
I
my
seen
shit,
it now.
bro.
I seen it now.
I have my window open with these bright ass lights though. Shit. But that's the hey, real shit, man. Listen, and I've said this to people. You don't. You get to pick what you deal with, right? You get to pick what is acceptable to you.
Yeah,
You don't get to change nobody, but if somebody don't meet your motherfucking
man.
requirements, you're like, okay, well, this ain't for me.
I learned. Hey, I had to learn that the hard way, but I learned it. You know what I mean? That hey, you cannot. It ain't for you to change the individual. It's just for you to establish yourself.
But you know, a lot of us know that when it comes to same sex. Our homies like, man, listen, I love him, but he ain't right. I can't fuck with him. Right? We don't. Most of us are. It's easy to grasp that concept. I got homies I love to death. I don't fool with them because they own some different shit,
Yeah,
and the risk ain't worth the reward.
yeah, yeah.
Right? But when it comes to women, man, we you know we throw that logic out the window.
Because we haven't been nurtured by strong men and
And
to understand how to deal with women.
so how do we fix that? Right? How do we fix? I think the current people our age is lost. Right? It's a waste of effort.
It's not
Right?
about us anyway. I think
Right.
that
It's about the
by us,
younger generations, the
yeah,
children. How do we fix both the men and the women? Right? Because I don't want to make it just about the the women. I mean just about the men. We have to raise our sons and our daughters.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that we already. I don't think it's as much about fixing it as it is about being a part of the solution. And I think by having these meaningful conversations that we having, because this is history, right? This is the beautiful thing about this is, it's gonna be out in the universe
Forever.
forever, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
so it's gonna be that energy that we want the youth to come into contact with, and then whoever choose to gravitate to it, they do. Who don't, it is what it is. But I think this is us being part of the solution right here.
100%. You know, one of the things that I've done throughout my career is I try to encourage brothers to get into technology field, right?
Mhm.
And I've
Yeah.
brought a few guys, with me throughout these times, and everybody's doing great, which is a blessing because I think one of the key pieces we miss is a skill set, right?
Uh-huh.
A
Yeah.
lot of us don't have a skill set. We're all capable, but a lot of us don't have a skill set that gives us the confidence we need as men. Because I know it's got to be hard to be a confident man and not be able to lock down and hold a job, right? One
Mhm.
that you feel good about having. Because we've all had a job we fucking hated. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But
Yeah.
I think we have to be able to decipher between who's worth our time, right? And give that time to people. Because I'm not gonna just get out here and try to help everybody. I'm gonna try to help who wants to be helped.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've put out multiple times, hey, listen, who wants to learn this? Right? And the people respond, hey man, I would love if you can teach me this or get me in the right path. And out of 10 people who say that, 2 follow through with it. Right?
But
And
that's
I
a
told one of
win.
my homies, I said, I can't try harder than you are for you. Like I got love for you, you keep asking for this help. But every time I give you a task, you drop the ball. I'm
Hmm.
out of time. Right? I got to help the next man. But that is a
Right.
win, right? It is a win because taking the 2 out of 10 is a blessing because hopefully
Yeah.
those 2 throughout the years,
Yeah.
right, can do the
Hey.
same thing. I'm not I'm not a social worker, right? I'm not gonna try to pick the most troubled and try to fix them. I
Yeah.
don't have the skill set for it.
Yeah.
That's time wasted.
Yeah.
Um, but I waited until my children were grown because that was my primary responsibility.
Right. Right.
Right? I had one of my guys, man, you act like this is years ago, man. You ain't doing enough in the community. I said, bro, I have 2 children I have to raise.
Hmm.
Any minute I take from them to give to somebody else, I'm doing them a disservice. I don't have available time because I don't, I work, I travel, I do other shit, so I'm not
Yeah.
even giving them 24 hours a day.
I respect
Um,
it.
but once my kids were grown, I'm like, okay, let me Let me see who else and I help people throughout my career, even when my kids are younger, interns and shit like that. Let me bring you in, and put you on. And then from that point forward, they did good. But I think we do have to establish not just, hey, how do you deal with women? How do you deal with men? How do you deal with confrontation? How do you deal with, what I'm saying, disagreements? Not necessarily confrontation aspect of fighting, but disagreements in situations. How do we protect ourselves? Right? I am
Yeah.
a firm believer of put everything in writing. Right? I don't care who it is. Me and my brother had a discussion about a business opportunity. I'm like, bro, get an NDA created, send it over to me, and then let's talk about it. Right? It's not that I'm gonna fuck you over, but I'm trying to establish with everybody, protect yourself.
Yeah.
You may not ever get fucked over, but if that one person that do gonna get you good,
And
right?
it can change your life.
It'll change your life. I
Yeah.
was I was blessed enough to have learned that through other people's misfortunes,
Yeah.
right?
That's what it's about.
Yeah, and I had a person, I had a boss who said, "Man, you're the king of covering your ass." I said, because I've been forced to do so.
Yeah.
Right? I have zero problem because it's my ass that's gonna get spanked when shit go wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I put
And I
everything
can,
in writing.
and I can deal with that.
Right. I mean, that's the reality,
Yeah.
right? So I think, we talk a lot about women and relationships, but I think we also have to teach men and all this shit goes back to relationships because a lot of men that lack the strength and the knowledge and the basics were raised without a man in their life.
Yeah.
Uh, so we have to find a way to reach the masses, and social media is one way to do it. Um, on skill sets, and I've been sharing the shit out. This is brother, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think he's African. He's always got something about AI technology. I've been sharing the shit out of that shit
Mhm.
nonstop, right? Because I'm like, this dude's giving you resources to learn shit free. Matter of fact, one of them I shared, I think, free classes you can take and get
Yeah.
certificates from Harvard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's beautiful shit. Because as men, as fathers, as brothers, as uncles, we gotta be able to prepare ourselves, bro. So,
Yeah.
whew. um, go ahead. I'm gonna switch to Charleston White because we didn't get a chance to talk
No,
about him.
no. I think really when we talk about the solution, if we broke it down into simple ways to understand it for us, I think it comes down to three things, and that's critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and expressive language. You know what I mean? Like if we inherit those three skill sets, and even just as men, because if we do that as men, then we can facilitate that. We can transfer that and facilitate that to our women and children, right? If we
Yes, sir.
move it like that, because that's the village is going to respond to when they see men building together. And when they
Hundred
see
percent.
us, collectively building together, like that's why I was saying, like us, that's what we doing. We building. We having these meaningful conversations. We building, right?
Yep.
We're inspiring each other. You know what I mean? We are being dedicated. We are being consistent. We're being accountable. We're conducting business. Like that transfers to the village. You know what I mean? So we just setting examples that, for people in the culture to not be able to say they had no idea. You
Right.
know.
You know what?
So
I like that because one of the things I've always told people, I tell shit that's common sense. I mean, I know that, man. I say, yeah, but you can't be mad at me for not telling you, right? I know you should know it, but I've said it now. Now it's on you,
it's
right?
accountability. Yeah,
Now
yeah,
it's on you. Because
yeah,
I mean, oh man, you didn't tell me. I've told you now, right? Now it's on you.
yeah. No,
Um,
real talk.
I wanna ask. I don't want to do politics, but I want to do voting. Right? I got a homie. He's like, man, voting don't matter. This that, and the other. I'm like, bro, I don't know how you feel, but if we don't participate, I'm like, you don't like the way you think corrupt politicians are corrupt. Cool, go be one. Right? We can affect change. Right? But I think we lose by not participating, not just from a voting perspective, but let's become more politicians. Right? Nobody looks out for us. I'm gonna keep it real. Right? Nobody looks out for us. I don't expect anybody to because shit, most of us don't look out for us.
Hmm.
But what's your thoughts? And I'm not talking at the federal level. I'm talking local and state shit, right? Because that's the impact. That's the change that's going to affect us the most.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
we do? First, do you think we need to be involved in that? And then how do we get more people involved at the low? And I'm not just talking voting. I'm talking stop, not stop voting, but start running for positions, right, to affect change in your neighborhood.
Yeah. We absolutely need to be more involved in that aspect of our communities, and I think that should start. We start with our kids. We start at making that a part of their regimen. Just like we should make exercising a part of our regimen. And you need to understand what's going on in your community. You need to have a voice in that. You need to understand who's who, and
Right.
it's always about comes down to like where are the resources going.
Right.
Everything's about even in the school level. When you look at your school as a child, if your school does not have all the resources that you need to better yourself, then you need to learn how to communicate that to your parents, and you need to learn how to really express that, use expressive language to the adults that are your whether it be your administrators, your teachers, your principal, and you need to learn how to be creative enough to communicate that message and and make yourself seen. That's how you politic. You everything's political on some level.
100%.
You know.
100%, bro. And I'm guilty, right? I sent my kids to private school, so it was a little different because we were involved. But I can tell you, I never went to a school board meeting. Now, again, my kids weren't involved in the public schools, but I never went to a school board meeting. I know a lot of people who have kids in public school that never went to a school board meeting.
Hmm.
And that's where like a lot of ground rules and financial discussions are set.
Yeah.
We again at the lowest levels, we got to get involved because that's going to impact the resources our schools get. Because
Yeah.
when it gets to the part where we complaining, right? Or when they close, I think they close Clay Middle or Clay High School. Uh, we complain after the decision been made, right? We didn't participate in the decision.
I'm pretty sure that the environment at Clay was poor for a while. I'm pretty
hundred
sure,
percent,
right?
100%.
And I'm gonna go back to, blaming the men for that, right? Like we rely on the women to be involved, in which on a certain level women should be involved, but I think that comes down to just being nurturers, right?
Mhm.
Maybe, being involved as a nurturer, but we're not present enough. We should be in every meeting. We should be popping up. We should be in the schools. We should be checking in. We should know who's who. We at least have the right numbers to call. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And we should, but you know what's crazy? We have the relationships, but we don't leverage the relationships. You know what I mean? Like I went to school with people who are principals now, right?
Right,
You know what I'm saying? But
right.
we just hang out. We should be like, hey,
More
hold your
business and personal.
hold your friend account. Hey man, what's going on? Like, what's your budget
Yeah,
like? You know what I mean? You know what I
right.
mean? And where can we get involved and who do I need to talk to get this and get, you know what I'm saying? Hold people accountable because that's politics. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
sir. Yes,
The,
sir.
the the people that's running the world, they really not the politics. They're the people that's involved with
Right, 100%.
in investing in resources. We're
Right.
leveraging it. Hey,
Yep.
I support this, but this is what
I
we
need something in
do.
return.
Yeah, and that's
Right. I
just how
mean,
the world works.
that's how the world works, right? And I think that's one of the parts where we miss it because we do as a community have a shit ton of resources. We just directed them to the wrong locations. We're
Yeah,
not investing into
man.
the different aspects and avenues for our children. And bro, once you start doing that a little bit, you start to meet people, right? Because people want to introduce you to other people. It's not like it's hard to get. You might have to struggle a little bit to get that first introduction into whatever space you're trying to get into.
Yeah,
But people who do that shit love to work with people who do that shit,
yeah.
right? Because there's so many other things they want to get you invested in and involved in and shit like that. And it's I think it's something that and we just don't care overall, right? I'm not speaking for everybody.
Man, we don't look. Do you know how many people just vote based on the strength of who's supposed to be the most liked in the
Man, the
community?
name they saw the most,
Yeah, like
right?
I'm saying, this person is just because this person has been. I've seen people just in South Bend is like they voted for this person because he was a police officer for 30 or 40 years. What
Right.
the fuck
But
that got to
what does
do
he
with
stand for?
what has
Right.
he done? What has he done to make,
Right.
or is he just a face? He'll end up just being
Hey,
a
listen,
face.
it's I think I think voting should be mandatory. Here's why: because if you have to do it, you're gonna pay attention. Right? You got to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think you should be. I think it should be
You
mandatory, but
you
I
can write
also
no
think,
vote. Right? You can write no candidate, no vote. But I think the process should be mandatory.
and I think you need to demonstrate. You need to demonstrate responsibility in that process, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't. I think you should take some kind of a aptitude test to be able to vote.
Well, you understand what the hell you're doing. right?
Yeah,
Right? Yes, you
like you need
filling
to
out
know
some fucking circles
who
on the
is
page.
who, right?
Right.
Like I mean, you need to know who you can't just because which and I know that might be, might seem too much like right, but I'm saying that like we need to vote, but we also need to vote responsibly.
We need to know who the fuck we voting for and why.
Yeah, like if you don't even because it's like then you just going through the motions and you just keeping up a charade, and I just think that that's a disservice to our children. That's
Yeah.
why they're losing.
Right. Everybody that I know, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people I know talk about voting. They talk about voting in the presidential election. The one that has, I'm going to say, the least amount of impact on your direct life compared to the other elections that you didn't vote in. Right. Your city councilmen, your mayors, the people who affect the laws at your level. Right. And I just think we don't care because there's no direct value. We can't put a value on it.
We too selfish. There's no direct
Right.
benefit for me.
What is it? What is it
It's
for
no
me to
money
do this?
coming to my pocket. That's why I don't really
But it's
care to
coming out
vote.
your pocket if you
It's
don't pay
coming
attention.
out. That's the part that people don't really want to understand. It's it's already they already took the money from you. Your job is to make sure it's being
Right.
allocated the right way. Like, and it's for your children's sake.
Right.
Like, like if you work every day, like it's no your child should have your child's school should have everything that like Riley, Clay, they should have everything that Penn has, everything that St. Joe
Bro.
has.
100%. You know what? The Catholic Church can preach the same message every Sunday across every single Catholic church. How come all the schools in one city can't have the same curriculum? Right? How come they can't have the same books?
They
Like
can.
they can, but ain't nobody pushing for it.
But right, that's the reason.
Right?
That's the
You
reason
go to
why.
and we speak to Penn. Right? If some shit go wrong at Penn, parents showing up. Right? And
Yeah.
parents are gonna tell the people responsible, fix it or I'm voting you out.
So guess what we do as a culture?
We go
We
up there and
would
talk some shit.
we would rather just send our kids to one of them schools, and you know what I mean. So I mean, like that's so we just don't like you said we don't care.
We
And we
don't care.
don't. We only want to complain. We just that's just as a culture. I'm not saying all of us, but I'm
Right.
just
No, I
saying
mean we're generally speaking.
collectively.
Right.
Like it. That's because if we care, this shit don't. We want to go to school. We want to work at the schools and be friends with the kids.
Yeah.
That's enough. Like
I know we bumping up against time here, but I want to because you said we want to be victims. We don't care, and something happened recently in Chicago. I don't know if you hip to it or not, but I don't know if we talked about this briefly last time or not. But it was a dude got shot by the police, and I've been doing a little reading. Brother got shot by the police. They shot at him, adding 96 times. We tripping over. Everybody's mad about the last 3 shots when he was on the ground.
right, but
He
if my
initiated
understanding, he
from what I've
initiated right.
read.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
fired 11 shots at the police, right? First, uh, and then there's a young kid that got shot in a drive-by in Humboldt Park, and he's in critical condition. But there's nobody upset about that, right? Like and I think we touched on this briefly, but how do we fix this victim mentality where we see issues in the community, but there's nobody outside the community we can hold responsible, so we just like we just sweep this under the rug. Like
yeah.
how do we get to where we hold each other accountable? Not not necessarily hold each other, but we treat every Black Lives Matter, right? Let's treat them like they matter, right? Let's not put it on who is the assailant or what they look like or this or the other. How do we make it so every time there's a problem in our community, we make a big deal out of it?
I mean, I think that we have to really be honest with ourselves and really examine ourselves first, right? And look at all of the things that are really are most important and more influential in our community, right? So we put too much we need to redirect our energy. The energy that we put into celebrating athletics, we need to put that energy into a real education, trade-based educations or scientists, engineers, and architects. And, political science is one of those things that we need to really be focusing on.
That's huge.
We need to redirect our energy. Number one, we need to reprioritize. We need to really be more. So, for example, when I talk about being more accountable, I seen this trend where they all the teachers was taking this popular rap song and just creating these little skits around them, where and I guess they were doing it in celebrating it under the light of being more relatable to the children and having fun, right? But the actual content is counterproductive to who we want our children
Look,
to be, right? But we overlook that, right? I'm like, that type of shit to me is unacceptable. We need to really be more serious because education, you can be have fun in it, but you don't. We're not children. We're not their friends. We're not their peers.
right.
You know what I mean? And so we don't do that. We don't really. We need to hyper examine the content that we tolerate in our schools. We need to. We need to really re-examine how we even vet the educators, because that has a lot to do with where the money goes politically, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got the right resources in your schools, you can get top-notch educators. You get top-notch educators, you know what I mean, you're going to get a different culture in terms of, our youth.
So, so that's a tough because I got a couple family members and close friends that are teachers at one of the local middle schools. They're like, man, it's fucking wild in here, and it's wild because when a kid does something wrong and we call home, the parents come in like justifying it, right? It all starts at the crib, bro. Um, it's and I'm trying to say it without putting anybody where they can be identified. But I had a person tell me, he's like, man, I had a kid that was bad as hell, right? Bad as hell. He's like, man, this kid's a problem every day. So he said, I finally got hold of the kid. Father's nowhere to be found, right? Just that's not involved. Mom comes in. Mom's cussing me out for bringing her in and disrespecting her kid. He's like, bro, he said, man, this kid has no hope, right? Because he said, I can't be a disciplinarian, right? And have the kid go home and the parents say I'm wrong. And I don't mean he's spanking kids, right? But just being stern and saying, hey, this is what you
Yeah.
did wrong, only to have the kid go home and
What
his
was the
behaviors.
what's his role in the school?
He's a teacher,
Okay.
right? He's a teacher,
Okay.
and so this individual disrupts his class,
Hmm.
right? And by disrupting his class, because you know how kids are, bro. You only
Yeah.
gotta have one class clown to get a whole circus.
Yeah, for sure, for
You
sure.
know,
And yeah. So, what I think in that situation, this is going back. Remember we were just talking about in relationships and as a man, like it's about what you tolerate. And I understand his position as a teacher. He may not have this authority, but he should, right?
right?
So the authority should have been like for me, and this is why I won't work in the school, because this is what I'm going to do. If you come in, if I notified his mother and she came in with that energy, hey, pack him up and you take him somewhere else.
Right.
That's it. Take him wherever
I
you
mean,
want to take him,
that's what needs to happen. But right,
or take him because anybody else gonna take him. So take him home and you teach him.
right. That's what needs to happen.
Right. I'm saying if that was allowed, and enough people seen one or two walk right out there like that, guess what? The parents are going to change their mindsets.
They don't
gonna
want the
have no
kids at
choice.
home.
Right.
It's not necessarily for the right reason. They just want the kids at home,
Hey, but it's
whatever it
about the
takes.
results. It's about the results, right?
Right? Because
You
you're
know what I
right.
mean?
Because they're gonna be harder on the kid. Because like, listen, you can't. Nah, this shit ain't happening.
Hey, if I'm in the school, if I'm a teacher, if I'm in a class, this is how I'm running. It's if one, because like you said, you only need one. I'm gonna set the example. Hey, get up out of here. I don't care. Get up out of my class. That's how it's going. And if the administration couldn't handle that, I'm not the teacher for you.
Right.
Bye.
I need to dip. And one of my guys left the school he was at because he's like, man, these kids so bad. There's nothing that can be done. Right. And it's crazy because I don't know the solution. The solution is the solution's unattainable. Right. Parents need to parent. That's the solution.
But it's in the laws too. I mean, if you go,
Okay.
okay. So look, when you go to other cultures, other countries, it's the law. Like they set the laws very like. So what I mean by that is that if you even if you got to bring the army, the military into a school to straighten it right out
It needs to be
immediately,
done.
do it. Bring them in there. You gonna do exactly what we tell you to do. I don't give it like it's just simple as that. And even
Right.
it ain't got to be about learning. It's about instructional control.
I mean, let's keep it real. School teaches you basics, but the whole process is to be able to understand and follow instruction.
Yeah, we not
Right.
no like ain't literally. I mean, because if we go if this is what we doing, this is what we doing. But if you let a child come in there and just goof off for 8 hours and you reinforce 8 hours worth of goofy
Yeah.
shit, right?
Yeah.
So you can straighten this shit out. It's just about if the society cares enough to do it.
Right. But, and I think I think the laws. I'm with you, right? I'm glad you brought that up. I think we have to adjust the laws, right? But I'm also fearful because I know whenever we make a change to laws, we suffer the most, right? Everything's gonna be directed at us, our culture first. Um, but right now we suffer so much, we got to take that risk.
But guess what? You can change whatever law you want, and it ain't going. I mean, now obviously, hopefully, it has some level of morality embedded in
Right,
it. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's
But I'm saying like
misunderstood.
laws ain't going. I follow the rules.
You know what? That's an interesting one, and we'll wrap it up. I remember having a discussion about the crack laws and cocaine laws. I'm like, you don't got to sell neither one, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we complaining about how the laws are unfair, which they were, but nonetheless, you're not handed a bag of crack at 14 years old by the government. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to participate in breaking the rules. If the consequences of driving 500 miles an hour is life in prison, but you don't drive 500 miles an hour, who fucking cares, right?
It's a simple. I don't have no food. I mean, I don't have no money. I either can go without, or I can do this, and it's going to land me in prison for a huge portion of my life. I'm a bank. I go without right now.
Right. Let me figure out another way. Right.
Because I know it's another way, right? It may not be easy, but
It
it's
may not be
another
optimal.
way. You know what I mean?
That's one of the things, and I'm guilty of it myself. When I was younger, um, I thought to myself, in order to keep my kids out of the situation I'm in, I've got to do some dumb shit. But the dumb shit I did, I went and sat my ass at the public library. I researched what it looks like if this goes south. Right. I understood if I do this, hypothetically speaking, this should be the maximum situation I'm getting myself into. So don't carry more than this. Don't do more than this. Blah blah blah. Do it this way.
That's,
Like
but
that was
yeah,
the
that's
most
what I'm
logical
saying.
shit that now you have. In hindsight, right? I didn't have the internet, right? In hindsight, though, there was other options that I had. I just didn't. I went and did the research on the options I thought was the only ones. I didn't
Right,
research the options. Today,
right.
there's no excuse. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not making an excuse for myself either. Let me clarify. Right? I could have did right.
yeah.
Uh,
I did, bro. I look at back at my life, and I'm like, a lot of the shit I did, I was tripping.
but
You know what
right
I mean?
now, bro, I can get on the internet and say, "Man, life is tough. What can I can type up some shit. Life is tough. How can I do this?" And the fucking answer is right there, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It
I
can't
just got to do the work.
today. I'm not even talking about years ago, right? We understand that, like I don't even understand why we even talk about life like that. Like this is why are we talking about when crack was brought here in the '80s? Like why are we talking about that the way we talking about it? Like what does
Right,
that
right.
matter right now? I'm talking about right here today.
Today,
Because there's other cultures that they in the future. They don't talk about the past like that. That's what we want to talk about. When we talk about race, we want to keep on bringing it up in a way that does not serve us well. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
I'm with you.
I'm like, bro, like no, I'm not saying you forget it, but I'm saying explain to me why talking about it in the way we talk about it today, every year, how is that serving us?
Because here's what it is, and then we'll shut it down. I'll let you respond. We don't want a solution. We want to talk about the problem. A solution takes the ability for us to. We want to be victims. A lot of us, I'm generally speaking, there are obviously it's not everybody. A lot of us want to be victims, and in order to be a victim, I have to have something to be a victim of, right? So when we start to look at race and different things like that, there's ways for us to. We can talk about the positives, right? Hey, listen, I'm all for acknowledging the youngest black pilot, right? The youngest black lawyer, because that's inspirational to other young black kids who it looks like them,
I'm not.
right? And that's
I hate
okay,
it.
right? I don't, I'm okay with that. I know, and I feel why you hate it. I feel why you hate it, right? Because we should just acknowledge it as a general. But the reason I'm okay with it is because it there was too many roadblocks to stop us from getting there. But I don't get.
Only if we needed validation.
I think validation is big for us today, right?
I'm
We
saying that like if we needed for so-called white America to recognize us as a pilot, then yeah, that's not what made you a pilot. You were already a
you went to
pilot because
school
you
and you did the shit you needed to do. Right? I
yeah,
like the concept. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me let you
no
read.
no Yeah, I just think that whenever we start like today, just to say that, right? We still doing it. Like the first black this, the first black that. Do you know that literally makes us inferior? Today, the first black in America is over. It was over centuries old, and you're saying you the so that by proxy or just by that statement, it makes us inferior. Like
Okay, I can see we had 200. Granted, we didn't have 248
Like,
years, but
nah, I ain't the first.
okay.
And I don't even believe it. Like y'all, that's this no, because it's not even that. What happens is
You say this is the
y'all,
first one we told about.
yeah, exactly. Like
Okay,
we gotta know that by now.
okay,
But I just think this. This is my final statement on this. I think that victimhood is comfortable, and people enjoy comfort, but growth is always uncomfortable.
yes, sir.
And the more uncomfortable we make ourselves, the better off we're gonna be. Or we can
100%.
choose to be comfortable and be victims. And
Stay seated.
and that's just how and you're gonna see the outcome either way. I'm just not with it.
Hey, no, I'm with you. You know, and I say this to everybody: time's gonna pass. What are you gonna do with it?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? 4 years from now, I used to tell motherfuckers back in the day, man, go to school, do something. Ah, man, I want to spend like 4 years in school. I'm like, 4 years gonna pass if you're lucky, right? But hey, you know what, man? I appreciate it, bro. I'm glad we chopped it up. Let's do
Absolutely.
this. Let's do this again Wednesday, man. I think I'm gonna do a little bit more promotion on it. I'm gonna put some shit out there. Set up an event. Right? I'm gonna start
Okay.
setting an event on Facebook
Yeah,
and
yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
and shit like that. And start bringing people in.
Yeah.
But I greatly appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you joining the show.